What's up, guys? Welcome to Elite Outcome Academy. I'm your host, the founder, creator, and CEO of Elite Outcome Academy, a system that I had to design for me because it didn't exist. I spent a decade trying to figure out how to become better, how to heal from my traumas, how to get out of depression, how to get out of the funk that I was in, really a lifelong funk. And for the last 2 years, I've been developing this system to first help me. And as the first student who is finding massive success in this program, I'm bringing it to you guys in these videos here on YouTube and the courses that I'm creating on the website. What I wanted to talk about today was the fact that depression and anxiety are two mechanisms that are really built in, that are not meant to keep you down. They're actually survival mechanisms that our body creates in order to motivate us to get going. The problem is this society and the way that we live today culturally, they feel like mechanisms that are meant to keep us down. In hunter-gatherer days, we had these mechanisms to be used to gather food, to build shelter. We had anxiety to get us moving because we were missing something. A lot of the times today we get anxiety because our bodies and our minds recognize that we're missing something. The mechanism doesn't care if you live in the woods or you live in a $50 million mansion. The mechanism is there to tell you that something is wrong, that something is missing. And unfortunately, we focus on the wrong side of it, the part of it that makes us feel like something's wrong and we can't figure it out. And the reason we can't figure it out is because it was really easy to figure out just a few hundred years ago. We needed to get food, or we needed to get shelter, or we needed to get water, or we needed to be closer to a tribe of people. Getting closer to a tribe of people is why I created Elite Outcome Academy, because though I know I'm not alone, I feel so very alone. Very few people that I meet understand the things that I've been through, understand the way that I think because of them, understand my skew on reality. And the reality of it is, there's millions of us. So I created the Academy so I could bring us all together, so we have a place to congregate, so we have a place to relate, so we have a place to shake off the past and build ourselves into the elite future that we can possess for ourselves. Let's talk about depression for a little bit. Depression is interesting. Depression is a modality that makes us kind of stay still. And it is my theory that depression is meant to make you sit and analyze and think, because the information coming around is too much to handle in the moment. I would gather that back in the hunter-gatherer days, because we spent many thousands of more years living in this way than we have the couple hundred years that we've lived industrially here with the type of world that we've built for ourselves. I would gather to imagine that somebody would be lost. They wouldn't have any recognition of where they are. They couldn't take in the environmental information fast enough to really make a decision. So they maybe climb up in a tree or find a cave or whatever it is. These are all just imaginations, but you can draw these things into your life, and I'll create relatability on that here in just a moment. So that they could sit long enough to gather enough environmental information to make a decision. Maybe they'd have to wait for cloud cover to move over so that they could navigate via the stars. Maybe they would have to wait out a storm in order to be able to be on the move. Maybe you got too far away from your tribe and you needed to just collect yourself for a minute because all of the other emotions are taking over. See, today we're pretty well lost. We're pretty well lost in this environment of industrialism, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I think this is a wonderful world that we live in. I think the homes that we built are amazing, and even though the food that we have today is getting worse and worse, the food systems that we've built, everything that we have is incredible, and it's so cool to see all of the things that we have designed as human beings. But it's new to us, and we have to learn to navigate it. So when you're in a depressive state today, you have to take a moment to figure out why your body, why your mind is making you sit still, become stagnant, and collect data. There's a veil, however, because if you're just sitting and watching TV or sitting and sleeping or not interacting with other people, there's no data to collect. You see, if you were depressed in the wilderness, you have the entire wilderness to analyze. Today, our wilderness that we can analyze from is the internet. Because when we're inside of our walls of our home, there's nothing that we can see. There's no external data to collect. There's no real life people. I'm looking out a window that's right here. That's why I keep gazing out that way. There's no people to talk to. There's a million things to see online, but that's barely peeking through the veil of the information that we need, because we need to be able to communicate. We need the motivation for the anxiety to kick in to move towards people, real life people that we can conversate with and touch and reach out to and relate and create with. You have to get out. You have to get out. You see, depression and anxiety are survival mechanisms. Today it's too easy to be comfortable not pursuing them, and so they become enraged. They become engulfed. They become a part of our everyday lives. And our body's telling us that something's wrong. We gotta fix it. We gotta fix it. Something's off and we gotta fix it. And there's nowhere to go to fix it. Until now. Until I created this academy, because I spent hours and days and weeks and years thinking about this stuff. What is wrong? What am I feeling? Why am I so unhappy? Why? Well, first, it's because the environments that I was choosing to try to collect this data in were incorrect. I was out drinking at night. I've quit drinking for several years now. I would go to places where I thought I related to people because I grew up in very destructive environments. So, of course, I know how to navigate being around destructive people. But it's destructive people that I'm after here, because I do relate. I don't relate to the activity or the environment, but what I do relate to, because I came from it, is how awesome the people are that live in just total disarray. The creativity, the decision making, the analytical abilities, all of these things are so powerful, and I am on a mission to raise you guys like I raised myself from the ashes of destructive lifestyle. Because we need you in the world. The world needed me to do what I'm doing, but I need you guys to jump on board and become part of this mission, part of this movement to overcome what the system has been designed for us. Intentionally or unintentionally, the system is here, and some of it has been intentional, and some of it is just happenstance because of the creativity and the wonderful things that we've built in this world. I can't imagine our lives getting so much worse and worse and so much more off kilter that we revert back to a previous version of being. We've created such a wonderful life. We have to manage it better. In order to manage it better, we have to understand that we can. And in order to understand that we can, we have to understand that there's people with the capabilities to do so. And not just a few people, but millions. There's millions of us. There's millions of us that have this capability. And you have the capability to analyze. You have the capability to create. You have the capability to become a version of yourself that you have only ever dreamed of, wished of, envied in somebody else. You have it. And the whole point of this academy is to help you flush that out. To help you flush out the skill sets that you have or that you've used incorrectly and how to use them correctly. One of the things that I did was I took my ability to navigate very dangerous situations. I've been in a lot of violent and dangerous situations, and I took my tool of understanding that I had the capability to navigate through them instead of letting my mind run in trauma mode. You see, there's been instances in my life where, and I'm sure yours too, where all I can think about is the trauma portion of it. I like to relate back to the story of the 4th of July shooting a few years ago. And I'll tell the story often because it's got so many good, juicy components. I'll tell the quick version. The guy pulled a gun as we were leaving the fireworks, and he fired it off in the air. The cops kind of corralled him into one area, and he made a mistake. Instead of just dropping the gun from having his hands in the air, he dropped his hands down with his gun in his hand, and they shot him. And they shot him a lot. And there were 7 cops, and they unloaded on him. And he didn't die. They mostly just blasted his legs nearly clean off of his body. He's no longer able to walk, and he is in prison in a wheelchair. But that night, I went into trauma response mode. You see, all the PTSD or whatever I've experienced from past situations really kicked in. I was driving my family home. I was on the freeway. A firework came out over the freeway and it exploded, and I completely let go of the car. I let go of the steering wheel. My feet came up off the pedals, and we were doing 70 miles an hour in bumper-to-bumper traffic. And thankfully, I was able to get it together quick enough to gain control and just be. I let all of the insane emotions kick in to survival mode and to be. And then it took me quite a while to come down out of that. You see, these emotions are very natural. They're meant to be used, but unfortunately we misuse them. We misunderstand them. We think they're something bad or something negative or something external. No, they're motivators or demotivators in order for us to data collect. What I did going into the future, especially over this last couple of years, because that story happened several years ago, is I started to reverse engineer this story. I started to reverse engineer my behavior. And I started to find the things within that story that taught me more about me, so that I can understand that I have capability. There's really two, maybe three responses that can really come out of a situation like this, because this shooting happened no more than 30 or 40 yards away from me, my 3 little children, and my wife at the time. I could have fallen to the ground, curled up in a ball. Fair response to keep yourself safe. I could have ran towards the action to try to help, which I'm prone to doing in this situation. I data collected quickly and fastly enough that I knew the cops could handle the situation. There was no reason for me to get involved. And then there's the response that I chose, of which I chose a thought about it, that I chose to think about incorrectly. What I did was, when the police started to fire, I turned and gave my back towards the situation, and I gave cover to my 2 little children that were in a stroller. Instead of thinking about how awesome that action was, I chose to think about how exposed my oldest daughter and my wife were. And instead of thinking about the awesome action that I took, I chose to think about the fact that I couldn't protect everybody. And this ate at me. I can still feel it in my nervous system, and that's okay. I'm okay with feeling it in my nervous system because I know the truth. But there's still a little part in my brain there, in my mind, in my thought process that feels icky about not being able to protect anybody. But the truth is, I'm not big enough to protect everybody. I'm not. There was 4 people in a stroller, and I did the best that I could do. Thankfully, everybody was fine. The only person that got injured was the original suspect, and everybody else was fine. Which is another part of the story that I have to consider. Everybody else was fine. The situation was handled really in the most correct way possible. But for weeks after, I was pretty distraught. I was pretty messed up from it because I have a lot of past experience with intense situations and violence. So, what I'm telling you is, when it comes to depression and anxiety, you have to learn the modality of them. You have to learn the mechanisms of them in yourself. Okay? Because it's trying to tell you something. The anxiety is trying to tell you to move towards something, to move towards someone, to get on the move, to figure out why this anxiety is there, because there's many mechanisms of perception that we don't always understand. We see and we feel and we hear and we taste, and we can pull information in off of all of these senses, but there are parts of us that we don't really fully understand. It's from that part that when you know somebody is staring at you and you don't even know who it is or where they are, and then you turn around and you find somebody staring at you and you have no idea how you knew that. But you were right. There's so many mechanisms in our body that we don't understand, or we misunderstand, or we misdiagnose. And anxiety and depression are 2 of them. Pay attention to the depression. Why is your body creating you to be stagnant? What are you lost in? Don't get caught up in the emotion of it. Get caught up in the mechanism of it. And you will find that you will be able to begin to overcome them and eliminate them as you really learn about you and who you are, what you're capable of, what you're meant for, as you build the self-esteem and confidence in yourself to understand that you can make real decisions based on real information. You see, oftentimes we experience depression and anxiety because of imaginary information. It doesn't mean that there's not something that needs to be fixed. It means that we let our minds run wild because we're meant to. Remember, anxiety is meant to push us towards hunting or gathering, finding shelter materials, understanding that we need to eat, drink, and be sheltered in order to survive. This is my theory that the anxiety is meant to push us towards this, or towards finding our tribe of people. Depression being, we need to stop, we need to check our surroundings, we need to become still, we need to conserve, because we're lost, but we're not sure what's going on. Out of depression, you can create a map. Out of anxiety, you can find utility. And when you start doing this, and I'm going to teach this to you in the courses through EliteOutcomeAcademy.com, I'm going to teach you through finding, which isn't built yet, by the way, so you can try to search for it. It's still in the works in the background. But I'm going to teach you how to go through and really filter these things out. Really take the time to analyze, to take action, what all of it means. This YouTube channel is meant for me just to rant about all of it. The coursework is in the link below as soon as it shows up. So, I hope that you find this video well. I hope that you find my rant and my information useful. It's become very useful for me. It's really changed my life and the way that I see things and the way that I construct the reality around me. The way that I redirect and re-diagnose and remanage my life. And I am a completely different person than I was 2 years ago when I started this journey, let alone 5 or 10 years ago. So, the message that I have to end this video is to find patience and find grace. It takes time. And it takes forgiveness. And I don't mean big forgiveness. I think grace, though it is the biggest mechanism that you can have to letting things go, it is small little things that you can learn grace from. You make a simple mistake. I'm human. Okay. Anyhow, thanks for being here. Subscribe, comment, share, whatever it is that we do with these social media videos. Okay? The point is, I'm trying to get this message out and to gather our people together. To gather those that have been downtrodden, broken, distraught. Because you guys are the real next generation of leadership that we need in this country. You understand things way more than these professors and elite business people and all of this stuff, right? It's up to us. We have to do it. We have to take control of ourselves, master ourselves to create elite outcomes. With that, I'll see you on the next video. Hit the little bell button, I suppose. That's what we're supposed to say because we're YouTubers. Because I'm a YouTuber. You might be as well. Anyway, take care. See you on the next one.